You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
It's time for the Geeks Pub. I'm Tim Robertson, joined by David Cohen. I have no idea what it is.
David Doan.
Yeah.
David Doan.
It's your evil twin that has the thin little mustache. Remember when they did that in movies? If someone had like a little thin mustache, that was a bad guy.
Or was it? I think it was that episode of Star Trek where they went to the mirror universe and everyone had the goatees.
Yes, the goatees.
They were evil.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the little mustache obviously is a Hitler throwback, so I guess that.
I think it was before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of those silent films. They always had the guy with the mustache, and he would twirl it.
Yeah, I suppose it was probably just the easiest thing to put on an actor to make him look different.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, the mirror universe, they always had mustaches or like slicked back hair.
Yeah. Old slick back hair is another thing. Yeah, anybody with slick back hair must be evil.
It's got to be evil guy.
That would be an interesting movie concept, to have somebody who's a really nice person but looks like a supervillain, and everyone always misjudges him. Yeah, he's really trying to do the nicest things ever, and everyone treats him like he's a supervillain.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. You can have that.
It would have to be a comedy, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course, Hollywood wouldn't do a movie like that now because it's not tied to an existing franchise, so there's no chance of ever getting that off the ground.
Yeah, it's kind of getting a little bit out of hand.
I mean, I suppose Austin Powers was kind of riffing on that a little bit.
A little bit.
Even though it was meant to be obviously a parody of
James Bond.
James Bond. Yeah.
And specifically Goldfinger.
Yeah, but the thing is, I would say that probably Dr. Evil is far more famous than Austin Powers is.
I would agree.
When people think of those movies. So
they still do commercials, and he plays that role.
Yeah, and there was somebody on TV in Britain last night who was knocking off Dr. Evil for that thing.
And nobody does Austin because it's a lame character. It's just terrible.
Yeah, to be fair, it was meant to be lame because it was meant to be James Bond, except he was diametrically opposite to what James Bond really was like. So maybe the first couple of those films were great, and then they really went off the rails because he got too much into doing the stupid characters.
I think I only watched the first one, and that was enough for me. There was no unanswered questions left for me in the sequels.
No.
Speaking of sequels, we have season 2 of our superhero movie competition.
Because just like Hollywood, we can't come up with any original ideas.
Well, this is kind of original. I don't know anybody else doing this.
Yeah, it's original, but we've done it already, and now we're going to do it again.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of movies.
The difference is this time both of us are wearing moustaches.
That's right. This is the evil one. I'll be honest, though, looking at the entries this time, it's going to be way harder.
Yeah.
There's only a couple I would consider turds in here. Everything else is pretty good, so it's not going to be... I'll be honest with you. After Google picked all the random ones for us last time, Captain America, what was it?
The Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier. I kind of thought that was going to win it because that was, of all of those movies, that was probably my favorite.
Yep.
I can't really... Man, there's some really good ones in here, so... we're going to get into that in a little bit, though. First, did you see the article that Sony and Marvel are once again kind of at loggerheads because they would like to both do something different with Sony? Now, this is all rumor, of course. We're not hearing anything official, but quite honestly, you read the rumors and you go, yeah, that sounds exactly... It rings very true.
This is a tough one for me. I don't know how good this site you got this link from is. I don't read it, so I don't know what their hit rate is like. But the problem with rumours is that, the guy who works in the post room can call them up and go, well, I heard a rumour and, I'm pretty
This
pretty
isn't
well
the only
sourced.
place I've seen this reported.
I agree. And I think the wider point is the one you just made, which is whether each specific is a right or wrong rumour, it kind of tracks with many of the things that we've observed from what's going on in Marvel And it also kind of tracks with the sort of things you expect from Sony, which is one of those typical Hollywood movie companies where, something has worked, we must do that again as quickly as possible.
The only thing Sony has done in the superhero genre in the last 10 years that has worked, and in spite of themselves, was the Into the Spider-Verse stuff, the animation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every single thing else they've done has been pretty bad.
Yeah. But the stuff they've done with Marvel, they've gone... the rumour here is that the multiverse stuff, which was it the most successful of the Spider-Man movies? Anyway, it made them a ton of money.
Yep.
They're going, well, we want to do that again. We want Garfield and we want Maguire back, and we want to do a more three-way Spider-Man. Of course, Marvel are going, well, we've done that.
We did that. It was very successful, and we want to take this character now back to where it really should be, and that's a street-level vigilante. Which
is exactly what the setup of the end of the last movie did, because nobody knows who he is.
All right, so they reset the character. Those three movies, that trilogy, is the best Spider-Man out there. It really is. It's just fantastic.
Because it takes him on an arc. It takes him on a journey. And
because Tony goes out to him in Civil War, and he's a street-level guy with an atrocious costume.
Yeah,
but
he wins
Stark sees
the lottery.
The potential. Yeah.
This is he wins the lottery. Yeah, he screws up winning the lottery because he's a kid and he doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah. Then big stuff happens and he thinks he's won the lottery again, and then he realises he still hasn't learned anything. Yeah, and then finally he makes, together with another guy who should know better, makes more mistakes, and then he finally realises through a period of reflection and some substantial loss that him winning the lottery is a bad thing.
Yeah,
and he needs
careful
to
what you
walk
wish
away
for.
from it. Yeah.
Yep.
And he makes a choice to do the right thing, even though it's going to cost him. And now he's back to square one. And so Sony goes, "Oh yeah, let's ignore all of that and let's just recreate those circumstances again because it was awesome."
Yeah.
And yes,
and it was awesome, but you can't do that again.
Well, not only that, if they did it again, then it wouldn't be as awesome this time round. Because
well, if you're going to go that route again, you got to start small again.
Yeah.
And taking him, and I don't think they should go that route, period. I don't want to see those three Spider-Men meet again. Garfield and the other one can find that's fine. But not Holland.
You know what? I'll tell you what Sony's pitching for. Sony's pitching for, right, okay, so we start with Garfield Spider-Man, and he gets in trouble, and then he figures out a way to bring Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire into his universe to solve his problem. That would be their dumb pitch.
Yes. Well,
I would imagine.
Their dumb pitch is, look, we've built up all these characters now with the just released Madam Web, which was so bad, it's a joke. I haven't even watched it, and I have zero desire. Yeah. Mobius, who I still haven't watched that movie because I've heard so many bad things, and then we have Venom, which was a mild success, but nobody really cares. Nobody really wants to see that Venom fight Spider-Man.
Well, I think when people want to see that Venom, they want to see it on its own. I don't think they are saying, "Oh, well, you know what will make this better is have equipping Spider-Man there," because they've unintentionally created the character in a way that he's carrying his own movie. He doesn't need. All it's going to do is dilute him.
Yep.
In fact, to be fair, I mean that's what they did with Sony did with the third original Spider-Man. Is they started throwing all these characters in there, and it turned into an unholy mess.
Well, that's Sony's MO.
Yeah.
So do you think that Spider-Man, the next one, 4, if it happens, still send the MCU, and it's Spider-Man at a street level? And Kingpin may be the bad guy, and maybe you can have Daredevil in there, too.
I would imagine
would be good.
If that's what Marvel wants, then that's what will happen, because...
I don't think so. Sony can be dickheads when it comes to this stuff.
Well, yeah, but so can Marvel. I think Marvel.
Yeah, but Marvel's got a better track record than Sony does.
Yeah, but I think Marvel would just basically refuse to play ball until Sony comes into their wheelhouse.
Oh, I agree. I think that is what's happening.
So I don't think it will happen until it's satisfactory to Marvel in some way. Now the problem is, the other rumor in this article is that Sony's desperate to get this movie off the ground, and Kevin Feige is saying, "Well, I don't have time to do it." which we've talked about. We know he's spread too thin.
Well, they've also, it looks like, according to the slate of upcoming movies, it looks like they've trimmed back a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Like Blade is not even on the schedule at the moment.
Yeah. But that's presumably because they're trying to reorganize themselves, and that's going to involve Kevin Feige as well.
Yes.
They've got a returned head of the studio at Disney, and he's saying, look, this attrition of the goodwill that Marvel's had needs to stop. Now, he's got his own views on how to do that, which is stop all the TV, do less of the universe stuff. But then here's the worrying thing: is one of the other rumors in this article is that they don't want to release Spider-Man until they've got stuff in it that's going to link into the next Avengers movie, because Spider-Man's going to lead the next Avengers movie. Now, I don't have a problem necessarily with Spider-Man leading the next Avengers movie, but I think they do need to move away from this, everything in the universe got to service everything else, and do more standalone movies. And we've just been talking about, they're talking about bringing Spider-Man back down to street level, and then in one movie they're going to make him the leader of the Avengers.
Yeah. Well,
and Spider-Man in the comics has never been the leader of the Avengers.
No, never.
No?
He's joined the Avengers before, but he doesn't fit in well with the Avengers.
No, exactly. So, and it's like Avengers. What Avengers do you have right now? They don't
have any.
They don't have an Avengers. Yeah, it kind of blew the Avengers.
Yep.
So maybe not do the Avengers.
Or save it until there's a reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
Build the team back up very slowly with some standalone movies, and the only thing that they have in common is post-credit scenes. It worked extremely well.
Yeah.
In the past,
and also, do we need? I question this point. Do we need another Avengers movie? Right
Absolutely. Not right now. No. Do we need another one?
That's
Absolutely.
what I mean. Right now, I think they've just
define right now.
Well,
a year or two?
In the next few years, yeah.
Yes, we do.
I think, well, it depends
4 years.
How many years we're talking about.
4 years.
I don't know whether we need one in 3 years. I think that's a tough ask. How long did it take for Phase 1 to end with
10
the Avengers
years.
movie? Yeah, so maybe that's the sort of timescales we should be looking
When's
at.
the last Avenger movie? When did it come out? 2019.
18, yeah?
19.
Right.
Right.
So we got to
we're 5 years away right now, dude.
Yeah, 5. Okay.
Yeah.
But I would argue they've kind of screwed up the last 5 years. So
I would say they screwed up the last year and a half.
Okay. In terms of going to the Avengers,
but they've done nothing to build up a new Avengers team at all.
No, exactly. And the point I'm trying to make here is that they've got other things on their plate that are also big teams that they could play with. They've got the X-Men coming, and
Fantastic Four.
They've just cast all 4 of the Fantastic Four. That's a conversation I think we need to have.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Fantastic Four.
But what I don't understand is if you've got the Fantastic Four, who, let's face it, a very, very abused set of characters in movie history, there's never been a good Fantastic Four movie.
No, they've all sucked.
Yeah, exactly. So now they want to do it right. Why not devote your energies to putting your Marvel characters around the Fantastic Four rather than necessarily doing the Avengers?
I think that you could do both. It depends on the Fantastic Four because, Marvel announcing it released a picture, a cartoon, if you will, and it clearly depicts the Fantastic Four in the 60s. So my guess is it starts in the 60s and then they jump forward because they can't have... The Avengers were the first big superhero team, right?
Yeah.
You can't have, by the way, there was some guys in the 60s too that we never ever talked about. Doesn't make any sense.
That's the point. I mean, that was immediately my question, is that if you want to have an origin story for the Fantastic Four, how do you do that in the existing Marvel continuity?
The moment they get powers, they go to the forward. Half the movie takes place in the 60s. They're building their rocket and blah, 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 blah. They get their powers. When they come back, it's 2026. So now they're super powered, dealing with that, and they're out of time.
Right. Okay. I get
that. Would be interesting.
That I can understand.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, the accident that gives them their powers also throws them forward in time at the same time.
Yeah.
Rather than them getting their powers, do something in the 60s, and then ending falling through time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. To me, that makes more sense. So let's look at the cast. Number 1, Mr. Fantastic, Pedro Pascal. Now look, I love the guy. My only concern here is I'm getting a little burned out by him.
Yeah.
He's in too many big things now.
And the question, I mean, there's two things with that. First of all, is he's kind of recognizable. So what can they do to him to make him look like Reed Richards without you immediately
They don't need to make him look exactly like the comic book Reed Richards.
But what I'm saying is you have to buy him immediately as Reed Richards.
I will. I could do that.
Not as Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards.
I could totally look. He's a different guy in Game of Thrones than he is in The Mandalorian than he is in The Last of Us.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not dissing.
He's got the chops. I'm not worried about that.
But he's got a certain look to him that I'm not sure. Well, certainly, I didn't think it kind of fits with Reed Richards, and this cartoon picture they did with the actors kind of as the cartoons thing didn't really convince me on that either. I look at it and I go, oh, okay. It's a guy from The Last of Us in the Fantastic Four costume. So I've got a vague concern about that, but there's time to deal with that.
I don't have a concern about it. My only concern is I think he's a little overexposed. I would rather of them.
Yeah. I think we're arguing the same point from two different perspectives here. Yeah.
Now, the guy they got to play the Thing. I don't know if you know much about him. I don't know if you've watched The Bear.
No, I haven't.
So The Bear is 2 seasons so far about this small restaurant in Chicago.
Yeah.
And this guy plays his cousin, who's always kind of screwing things up. He's not very responsible. The acting is, The Bear is a fantastic. And each season is very small, like 5 episodes, 6 episodes. It's very much a BBC type of schedule for this. Mm-hmm. But the writing is just amazing. The acting is so good. Everything about the show is just... It's one of those shows that when you watch it, you're amazed that it's not as big as it should be. It's that good.
Yeah.
But you kind of hope it doesn't get too big. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he is a fantastic actor, and I've seen him in other things, and I could totally see him as the Thing. I have no problem with that. Joseph Quinn is... I don't know. I can't see this kid as Johnny Storm. You know, Johnny Storm is supposed to be a very good-looking guy. All the women seem to love him. He's carefree to a point where he's kind of a danger sometimes to the other team because he screws up. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know.
I mean, I kind of get the impression here that what they're trying to do is they're trying to do the Fantastic Four as slightly older than we used to.
Yeah.
So Johnny Storm is typically portrayed as being like his mid-20s, kind of that, sort of thing. Whereas these actors are older than that. So I wonder if, I don't know. I mean, maybe what they're going to do is actually not have the origin story and have them from a different universe where they're already established as the team. And they're older and they're a bit more mature.
Yeah, because Sue Storm is Vanessa Kirby. She was born in '88, so she's not a young teenager either.
No. Which, to be honest with you, again, Vanessa Kirby was the one pick I thought, I can see that. If you want an older Sue Storm,
she's a really good actress.
She's great. She's been in The Crown. She's been in a few different things.
Mission Impossible, I think.
Yeah, she is an excellent actress, but she's most definitely a lady in her 30s, not a lady in her 20s.
Right.
And obviously Pedro Pascal is of an older age as well. I think they're kind of trending up in the age on this. So Which I mean, thinking back to the Fantastic Four movies that went previously, not the standalone one, but the one that there was a pair.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems with that was that some of the actors in the hat were just too young for the roles. We've seen Chris Evans wasn't great in his early career and then got very good. Jessica Alba has never been, in my mind, a particularly strong actress, but I think she came over as a bit too young for the. Sue Storm's meant to be the glue that kind of sorts out the three odd men in the Fantastic Four, and I never really bought Jessica Alba as being able to do that. I actually thought that Michael Chiklis, the guy from The Shield who did the thing, I thought he was pretty good in those.
Absolutely.
You just wonder with this, maybe they are going to go have them older. It's difficult because we have absolutely no idea how they're going to approach this team.
We also don't know who the bad guy is. They've said it's not going to be Doctor Doom.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. Does it need a bad guy?
Maybe.
Couldn't the Fantastic Four first movie is just about them getting their powers, landing in the future, and coping?
Could be. I mean, it would be
It'd be refreshing.
Yeah, it would, and it would be interesting to see. All of a sudden you've got these powers. You think, "Wow, we're a superhero team." Yeah, what an amazing thing! And then you will end up in a future where the place is awash with superheroes,
right,
and has dealt with big world-changing events, and it's just like, oh, you're just another set of guys.
And Reed Richards, this brilliant scientist, is 60 years out of date. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a certified genius and you jump ahead, look, just think about right now. Someone right now in their late 30s, the most brilliant guy on earth, right? Because that's who Reed Richards is.
Yeah.
You jump that guy ahead 60 years. How much is his brilliant? I mean,
how much is invalidated by
the advances in technology and
already we're in the 50s and the 60s. A lot of the major scientific theories are kind of, if they weren't established, they were on their way.
Yep.
And particularly some very, very important stuff around quantum mechanics and everything was starting to be properly understood. But back then, there was so little known about many things that you could feasibly, if you were good enough, learn enough about everything to be kind of one of these polymath scientists that these genius guys in the comics are meant to be.
Yep.
Today, it is not like that.
No.
There is so many different disciplines, detailed science. You have to understand that for you to be able to understand everything, which is the way these characters are often depicted, is literally impossible.
Imagine half the movie is Pascal is the world's come to him for all these answers and stuff, and he wants to get to space. He wants to be at that cutting edge, right? And then go ahead forward. Sue is the one that's kind of holding everyone together because that's kind of her superpower. Johnny Storm is infatuated with the new world, the way people dress and the women, and he is, oh my God. And of course they get kind of popular right away because they show up with powers and they're not hiding their identity or anything. So he's very popular with the women, and he loves the future. This is amazing. The Thing, Ben Grimm, is trapped in this stone body, basically. So he's very depressed, and he wants to be cured of this. And he's got to be very careful with his power because he could literally just knock a building over if he's not too careful. And then the guy that's supposed to be the leader of the Fantastic Four is feeling very antiquated. Yeah. He has to come to terms with maybe he's not the smartest guy in the world anymore. And how does he ask people for help? He doesn't even know the questions to ask right now. I think that would make a great movie where you don't need a big villain that they all can rather, we got to go beat this guy up now, I think that would be great. They'll never do that.
They'll never do I was going to say, because how do you have a big third act CG fight if you don't have a villain?
Yeah, well, I don't think you need a big. You don't need a big fight.
I think it would be fascinating to do the Fantastic Four as a character piece. Literally as a character piece with virtually no powers in it at all. I think that would be a very, very interesting take. But I don't know whether Disney has the guts to try and pull that off.
They don't.
Right.
It's too bad, too, because I think what I just described would be a great movie.
Yeah.
Set these characters up, humanize them all. Everybody would have their favorite Fantastic Four, character. And then on the next one, that's when you introduce, Galactus or Doctor Doom or whatever. But they've done Doom dirty, and so he's never been done right.
I suspect the reason that they don't want to do either Doom or Galactus is because they've done both of them already.
It was both bad.
It was both bad. And now I did hear a rumor that they were talking about having a female Silver Surfer.
Yeah, they backed away from that already. It was going to be the woman who did that chess movie.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, I actually was like, that might be pretty cool.
Yeah,
because she's got that otherworldly beauty that if you wrap her in a little bit of CGI all silver and kind of detached from humanity, I think she could pull that off brilliantly.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is you can't do the Silver Surfer without doing Galactus, and
Yeah. Here we go again.
Been and done. Here we go again. Yeah. And I think also as well, and one of the problems I think the Marvel continuity has is that there's so many. We've just seen this with Echo. There's so many characters in Marvel who actually, because of the way Marvel came together with different comics that were merged in and different ideas and some blatant rip-offs and what have you, there are a lot of characters that are very similar. And I think if you did Galactus the way that Galactus is done in the comics rather than the weird thing they did in the second Fantastic Four movie, the planet-devouring black hole type thing. But if you did him like in the comics, then people are going to go, "Oh, isn't this like the Eternals?" Because the thing in the
I think
Eternals,
they'd be more like, "Isn't this kind of a Thanos guy?" But not as cool.
Yeah, but the pointy helmet and everything is very Eternals-esque.
Yeah, I think they're basically not.
I know not a lot of people remember the Eternals, but
yeah, just bad. Let's move on. The trailer for I've never played the game Borderlands. I know it's extremely popular. Never played it. I suck at those kind of games because 14-year-olds have way better reflexes. So, and there's no, as far as I can tell, anyways, there's no kind of play by yourself type of thing. It's
there is.
Is there?
Yeah, there is. I played the first one by myself. The problem I had with it, don't get me wrong, it's a really great game. The problem I have with it is it's kind of a roguelite shooter. So the idea is that you, as much like you do in Diablo, even though it's in 3D, as you go around killing, doing missions and what have you, you get more loot that allows you to get better weapons and that sort of thing. And then when you die, you can get resurrected with that stuff. And so you kind of grind your way to get better and better.
I gotcha.
The problem is that I did not get into the grind mechanic properly. So if you don't kind of grok it in my view, it becomes very tiresome very quickly, and that's what happened to me on the first Borderlands. But I have to say that the universe it's set in is really kind of cool. It's got that kind of sci-fi Mad Max type thing going on.
Yeah.
With a very heavy smattering of cosmic Guardians of the Galaxy to it.
Well, when you watch the trailer, I was getting Mad Max meets Guardians of the Galaxy vibes big time.
Yeah, and I think this is what they're going to go for. And
which, by the way, I'm a fan of. I'm for that. Let's do it.
From what I saw in this trailer, I think they might pull this off. I mean, it is very Guardians-esque.
The only problem I have with the trailer is Kevin Hart. I'm so done with Kevin Hart.
Yeah. Well,
whoever said he's a good actor or he deserves all these roles, he's not very funny. Number one. Number two, he has no range from what I've seen. I've never seen him do anything that's not funny or that's not Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the role that he has a breakout in. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. It looks good though. I'm excited about this movie.
Didn't Kevin Hart do a couple of more serious action spy movies? where he wasn't the comedian.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they were terrible.
maybe that's what it's trying to transition to here. But the thing is, they've got, apart from Kevin Hart, all the casting looks really on point.
Yep. Kate Blanchett looks amazing.
Yeah, exactly. She's like the leader of, or the one who assembles this team. It is very Guardians-esque, right back to the the 70s ELO track they use as the music background music. It's very much like that. The world they go to is kind of like that. It's full of these Ravager style people who they have to fight and kill. They've got this huge MacGuffin about this vault that's hidden on this planet. That's the plot of the game. They've got Jack Black as the comedy robot, which looks like it's going to be pretty funny. It might be terrible, but from the trailer it made it look really kind of interesting. And
I'm down. I'm going to watch it.
Perhaps a little bit derivative, but it's derivative of things that we've probably had and not had enough of. So, I'm down for it.
Last thing before we get into our season 2 bracket here. I'm not quite done with the last episode. I've got like half of it left. 10 episodes, or 8 episodes, whatever it is. The live action Avatar on Netflix. I've never been a anime guy.
Yeah.
And I saw the Avatar movie that came out like a decade ago or something, and it was atrocious. It was just terrible. This, I don't know if you've watched any of it, but I've seen people like blasting it, like, oh my God, see, they did exactly what we were afraid they were going to do. I don't know if these people are freaking talking about. This is really good. Is the acting perfect? No, there's some characters that's like, it's a little hokey, but all in all, I'm really, really digging it.
So just before I sat down to do the show, Leanne put her head round the door and she said, make sure you talk about Avatar because I've watched the whole thing and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
you haven't seen it? That's her view on it.
I haven't seen. Well, so I saw some of the original cartoon. Yeah. I know. I'm familiar with the overall story. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, the story of Avatar is there's basically 4 kingdoms, if you will, and each one has people who can control either fire, earth, water, or the air. Yeah. And because of the diversity, they're always kind of at each other's throats. But there's one person who is reborn as different people, but still it's the same person, if you will. And he is called the Avatar. And with training, he's born into different kingdoms, and it kind of works as a clock. He can control all aspects. And he's the one that kind of keeps the peace. Yeah,
and so he's kind of like a supernatural Dalai Lama.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the plot of this is that actually the Fire Nation are subjugating everybody else. They've virtually wiped out all the air people, and
he is, which is called the Airbenders.
The Avatar who's been lost, and nobody thinks is going to come again.
100 years.
Is found. And revived, and he is an airbender, and he struggles. He's only a kid, struggles to deal with what's happened to his people, and his role in that, and then at the same time has to then go on a venture, develop his powers, and become the true Avatar. And it's it's a classic cartoon. I think one of the reasons people are dinging on it is because it's just fanboys going, you can't break canon is what they're basically saying. They're saying you can't change anything from the cartoon.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, what's the point of redoing it then if you're not going to change anything, and refusing to accept that actually sometimes things move on, sensibilities change, and also you're doing it live action. So maybe some of the stuff you did in the comic, the cartoon was very, it wasn't a real anime, but it was very anime inspired. So there's an awful lot of the kind of the Japanese style stuff you see in these cartoons. The kind of the weird reactions and the slightly odd things that happen in the cartoon that you just suddenly think, what was the point of that? And obviously for the live action series, they've stripped a lot of that away.
And they went with more character building so we can really... Yeah. And I'll be honest, dude, it's just really, really good.
Yeah,
and I hope they don't listen to these critics out there. They're like, oh, you got to make it more like the cartoon. Because that shit doesn't work in live action.
Yeah.
Because none of that matters if you don't care about the characters.
Well, like, yeah, I think the problem is everybody has to allow these things to live on their own. You know, they don't have to be identical. I mean, look at Battlestar Galactica when they found, oh wow, Starbuck's going to be a chick, that's going to be terrible and all that sort of thing, and it ended up being awesome, and it also ended up being something completely different from the original show, and it was good. And everyone enjoyed it for what it is, and nobody now goes, oh, well, you know, they should have stuck to the original format. This is exactly the same sort of thing. Let it be what it is, a different take on the same universe. You know, and if it's good, and this is good, then let it be good, and don't worry too much about, you know, everyone seems to think, oh, well, if there's a new live action, then nobody will ever go back and watch the original cartoon. It's just like one does not cancel out the other.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, they can exist side by side as different and related things without necessarily destroying each other.
So,
you know, because
that's my advice
only the rule boys think that.
Yeah, so that's my advice, as well as Leanne, David's wife, who's much smarter than David, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
Go she is, because she's already watched it and I haven't.
Yeah. So let's get into season 2 of our movie bracket here. I'm going to quickly go through our competitors, and then we'll go through the first couple brackets or something here. So number 1, we've got from 2005, Sin City, going up against 2012's Marvel's The Avengers. We have Men in Black from 1997. A lot of people probably didn't realize that is coming from a comic book. Going against 2008's Iron Man. Kind of know where that's going. The 2003 Daredevil movie against Superman 2 from 1980.
Wow.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. That was the very first guys in costume, you know, against, and again, this is one that maybe some people listening might not remember this movie or ever seen it. 1994's The Crow, which was a comic book.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, starred in that. And actually, well, we'll get into that. 2009, The Watchmen against Thor 2011. That's a good one.
Yeah, Zack Snyder versus Kenneth Branagh.
2002, Spider-Man. This is kind of...
first Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, against Green Lantern 2011. Hellboy 2004 against... Oh, this is a good
Mystery
one.
Men. Wow.
Mystery Men from 1999.
Wow. That is a tough...
That's a tough one.
Bracket.
And let's go to... The last one is going to be Wanted, which I really... Well, 2008 against 300 from 2006, which again is a comic book. So,
yeah,
I think this is a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a lot harder than the last one.
I think so.
So let's move on to the first couple here. We've got Sin City against the Avengers. Now, let's focus on Sin City for a minute. Sin City, the comic book, was Frank Miller, and it was brilliant. It's such a good comic book. I don't know. Did you ever read Sin City?
I didn't read it, no.
The art style in this movie, a lot of people hated. You know, it's very that black and white.
Yeah, it's kind of black and white, colorized, smattered with a bit of Tron. So some of the color kind of glows.
But that's what it looked like in the comic books. They didn't do
stylized.
Color. Yeah, they had a lot of black and red and.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't have a problem with the look of Sin City. I thought it was fine.
And it had a really good cast. Look, Mickey Rourke as Marv was just. Marv, I was wondering when they first said they were going to make a Sin City movie, I'm like, who are they going to get to play Marv? Because he's such a force of nature. He could take so much punishment. At his core, he's a good man, but everyone is terrified of him.
Yeah.
He's so imposing. And they said Mickey Rourke, and this is before I realized Mickey Rourke had looked like he lifted weights and got hit by a truck 20 times. was brilliant casting. He was 100% Marv in this movie.
Well, here's the thing about Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke was a great actor who made some terrible choices in his life.
Yeah.
And I think, snorted far too much stuff up his nose, and it kind of screwed him up.
He was brilliant in The Wrestler.
He was a bit of a tragedy, really, and this was kind of his Robert Downey Jr. moment.
It really was.
And, except that it didn't turn him back into a star because, as you say, he still looked like he'd been hit in the face with a frying pan.
I don't know. He's gone on to do. I mean, look, he was in Iron Man 2. And he did really good. I think the movie The Wrestler is his best movie.
What I would say is he started making much better choices after this, he clearly is not. He's clearly a man who chooses his projects carefully after some of the disasters he made in his early career, and that means he hasn't worked that much. But the stuff he's done is really good. Alexander and I still frequently say to each other, "I want my Boyd."
Yes. Bruce Willis is in this, and he just plays Bruce Willis. He doesn't really. To be fair, though, the role in the comic that he plays isn't that interesting. He's way overshadowed by Marv.
And I have to say, I mean, I spent the first half of this podcast dissing Jessica Alba's skills as an actress, but she was really good in it.
She was really good in it, yeah. I still never buy her as a blonde, though. She doesn't have the complexion to be a blonde. She looks way better with her natural hair. But,
it didn't... in Sin City, the fact that somebody looks like they've dyed their hair doesn't really matter, does it?
Right, no. Rosario Dawson, she's great, you know. Clive, I never bought as Dwight.
No.
Dwight's a lot smaller than him, and but I will say, though, all in all, this is a great cast. This is a really good movie. For those who haven't seen it, it's an 8 out of 10 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes is a 76. Metacritic's a 74. This came out in 2005, remember, so this is almost 20 years old.
I think one of the problems with Sin City is if you don't know the source material, it's a little bit odd.
Yes.
Well, quite a lot odd.
It was definitely made for the people who read the comics.
Yeah. But having said that, I have somebody who didn't really know the comic. I knew of it, but I'd never read it. I spent the first half an hour kind of feeling a bit uncomfortable, thinking I don't really like this.
Yes.
And then I kind of got into it, and then by the end I thought, oh wow, that was really good.
Well, the guy who wrote and drew the comic book was Frank Miller, and he co-directed it, which means Robert Rodriguez really directed it, but Frank Miller was there. Let's be honest.
Offering notes.
Yes.
But let's face it, Robert Rodriguez is also an amazing director.
But he's had some stinkers too. But I got to give it up. Sin City is a great movie.
Yeah.
But it's going against the frickin' Avengers, man.
Yeah. Well, I think we've said it before. The Avengers was like the first... It was the first real comic book movie. I know we'd had the stuff before, but it was the first one where you had them all there.
It's more than that, David. It's the first one that I didn't think they could make.
Yeah.
I really didn't think they could make an Avengers movie.
And not only that, they overreached immensely in this because you'd have thought if they're going to do the Avengers, the first one, that it would be, table stakes. It would not be
saving
big
the world.
Stakes. And the first half of the movie, you kind of think, okay, that's how they're going. Loki's back and he's up to something and all of that, And then the second half of the movie, all of a sudden they roll out the helicarrier and you think, no, they're not going to do the helicarrier. And then they do the helicarrier. And then everything kind of revolves around what goes on after that. And it becomes literally a fight to save the Earth in the middle of New York.
Yeah.
Somebody finally figures out how to use the Hulk properly.
Yes.
They recast the Hulk into somebody who just knocked the performance out the park.
That you could tell he wanted to be the Hulk too.
Yeah.
Wasn't trying to make a statement piece or some bullshit.
And also as well, they sensibly use the character in that, so he's a super scientist. So him and Tony Stark get along great.
Yeah.
And they start working together. And, all the kind of the rough edges of the team start being pushed together. They very naturally bring in characters you've barely seen in previous movies, like Black Widow and Hawkeye. It just worked.
It worked.
It really did just work.
Yep.
And
I know Josh Wheaton and all the problems he had, but I don't know if anybody else would have made this movie like this and made it work this well.
Yeah.
And Josh Whedon was known to work with large ensembles.
Yeah, and he was also known to polish scripts so that you had the smart aleck comments and
that's where all that came from, the
characters
quips
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, before he kind of, apparently he just, when it got to Age of Ultron, he just kind of lost it.
Well, yeah, you can only do that so much, that kind of pressure. So I think we're in agreement. Avengers moves on.
I think so.
As much as I love Sin City, Sin City would have gone farther in the bracket if it wouldn't have gone against the Avengers right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Next one, say what you. This is Men in Black from 1997 against Iron Man. Let's be honest, Iron Man's going to win this.
Well, you know what? I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. Because I think Men in Black is also almost a perfect movie.
I agree. I agree with you.
Because, first of all, with Men in Black, I think they never should have made any of the sequels.
No, it should have been a one and done.
Because to me, it's a perfect story. The idea that...
but is this movie dragged down by what comes after it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think so, because I'm looking at
Will Smith
just Men in Black on its own.
Yeah. Will Smith is a cop who encounters an alien, and it freaks him out. Yeah. And he is asked to apply to join the Men in Black. Tommy Lee Jones is the perfect character for this role. Stoic, been there, done that, not impressed with Will Smith. He's seen it all. Devoted
to the job.
Yep.
Humorless. Used to dealing with...
And plays off Will Smith's exuberant young black guy brilliantly.
Yeah.
Just...
And then the way it was done as well is that you could have done this, and I wonder what pressure there was to do this as just a typical action movie, and instead they made this a very, very smart comedy.
Yep.
Where they basically it's very self-aware about how ridiculous the whole idea of the Men in Black is, and the idea, for those who haven't seen, the idea is that aliens live on Earth.
And have for a very long time.
Under a galactic agreement, and the Men in Black are there to make sure they don't misbehave.
And make
the Men in Black have
humans forget that they saw anything.
Yeah, well, because they say that the humans wouldn't be able to deal with it, so it's all kept
Which
secret.
Is true.
Yeah.
We couldn't.
Yeah, and they obviously they have access to the alien technology, and they know all about the alien species and everything. And somebody on the planet decides to break the rules, and Will Smith is on his first case as a Man in Black is on that case with Tommy Lee Jones to try and put a stop to it. It's a fantastic movie. It also has, from the guy who currently plays Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio, one of the all-time great alien monster performances. It's so funny. It's not. He's playing it for funny, even though it's not meant to be funny.
No, he's not playing it for funny. It's meant to be terrifying. He's playing it straight in a funny role.
In the context, it becomes funny, because he's meant to be an alien who's taken.
I quote it all the time with, "That's better." You guys don't hear that on the podcast, but when David and I sometimes are having problems, "That's better." Yeah, and he pulls his face back to make it tighter. It's a great movie. It really is.
It is, and it has some incredibly incredibly funny scenes. The alien birthing scene.
Oh my God,
very funny.
Doing great, Slick.
Yeah, the thing with the tiny gun.
Yes.
Everyone else walking around with these huge blaster things, and then giving him this tiny gun.
The cricket,
and then it turns out to be really, really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great movie. Let's not sugarcoat it. But Iron Man.
Well,
the difference is,
here's the thing.
Men in Black is a great movie. Iron Man is a seminal piece. Did Men in Black have the effect on the movie industry the way Iron Man did? No.
Well, maybe. I think it introduced more laughs into sci-fi movies than maybe we'd had before. But then so did Iron Man.
Yes.
To an extent. I mean,
when
Iron
you
Man
find out how they made Iron Man, that they were changing scenes hours before they filmed it, where it was, the director and the actors, and they're riffing, and they were like, no, let's do this instead. And they didn't know where a lot of this was going to go. It was more guerrilla filming than anything else. And as good as Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones is in Men in Black, they can't touch the perfect casting of Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I mean, I accept all of that, but there are a couple of problems I had with Iron Man. I thought that Obadiah Stane, whatever his Stane, was I didn't enjoy the character. I didn't buy the he's going to build the big suit at the end. I didn't really enjoy the final fight very much. I will say that's true. Yeah, the final battle between those two, the third act isn't great.
No.
Everything leading up to it is, and then the ending is great. I felt they whiffed the ending, and it was the beginning of a long history of weak Marvel villains. But this also started the after credit scenes that leads to something different.
Yeah, I know, but I think you shouldn't really look at other films in the bracket, but I'm going to here. I think if you've got the Avengers higher up, I don't think you can then also take Iron Man through with the problems it has. We've got the standard we've set.
Yeah, but we got to look at Men in Black against Iron Man. That's
I know.
You can't say who's going to make a better competitor farther down.
But we've just said the Iron Man, for all it brought and for what incredible performance it had and everything, it had a weak third act, and Men in Black doesn't. So I'd be inclined to go with Men in Black on this one,
or at least I'm torn because I really like Men in Black a lot. I really do. And I'm thinking if both of them are on, here's the problem with that analogy though. If they're both on, Men in Black is 11 years older, right?
No.
But it still holds up. But I've seen it. I think I've probably seen Men in Black more than I've seen Iron Man. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that. But I haven't seen Men in Black in a long time now. It's been probably 5 years since I've watched it.
I've got to be honest, if both of them were on, I would definitely watch Men in Black over Iron Man. I'm really,
you know what?
And it's because
I can't believe
of that
I'm saying
act.
this. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Men in Black's moving on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
Next one's not going to be as difficult for us, David. 2003 Daredevil, which was Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Against arguably one of the best superhero movies of all time, Superman 2. As much as I like Superman, look, Superman and Superman 2 were actually filmed at the same time.
They were, but there was a lot of directorial shenanigans that went on, and Superman 2 was heavily recut because they fell out with with Richard Donner, the director of Superman 1. So they actually brought in a stunt director to finish Superman 2, and then they heavily re-edited it from what he originally had. But it was originally designed to be, it was filmed as two parts of the same coin.
Yep. And they do feel that way. Yeah. Usually the second movie isn't as good as the first movie. Empire Strikes Back would argue against that.
I would say Superman 2 argues against that.
That's what I was going to get to.
A better Superman movie than the first one.
But the first Superman movie is almost a perfect superhero movie for an origin story. They just have the third act is a mess.
The third act is a mess.
I don't buy Lex Luthor as really a credible threat against Superman.
Well, I kind of buy him as.
But Gene Hackman was freaking brilliant in the movie.
He was, and I thought he did have the level of menace and danger and knowledge that you needed to have him as the adversary of Superman. I think the problem was his plot was really stupid.
Yeah, it was a land grab.
It was a land grab, and
which they do again in the Superman Returns movie.
Well, that's because Superman Returns was meant to be a very deliberate homage to everything in the original Superman.
Well, it's supposed to be a continuation of that same character.
Yeah. It's like, but it was a real Die Hard 2 moment. How can the same stuff happen to the same guy twice? Mm-hmm. But putting that aside, Superman 2 I thought was a fantastic movie, and having for 80s special effects capabilities and budget,
was really good.
to be able to have 4 Kryptonians fighting each other in the middle of New York was something. I mean,
Dude, it wasn't 80s, it was 70s.
Yeah, because it came out in 1980. Yeah. Filmed in 76, 77. We've just praised the Avengers for doing that, and they did that all the way back then. This is, to me, is a. I thought it was a much better movie than the first one. I thought the characters and the way they were delivered was iconic.
Yep.
I thought the whole thing about, Superman wavering about whether he wants to be Superman and then having to come back, I thought was a great arc. I loved it. I really did. And
but
I enjoyed.
I like Daredevil, that first movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed Daredevil, actually. I remember going to see
it's panned now, but I thought it was always pretty good.
I thought it was a pretty good take on the character. I thought Ben Affleck was believable.
He was more Batman than he was Daredevil, which is why I was excited for him to become Batman. I think he's way a better fit for that. But there was nothing wrong with this movie.
No. Yes, there was.
When it came out.
I remember after I saw it thinking that much as I loved the guy who played Kingpin, he was a great actor. We lost far too soon because he died. He was the same guy who was in The Green Mile.
Yep. Duncan. Michael Duncan.
Much as I thought he was a great actor, I didn't like his Kingpin very much.
No, it wasn't believable.
No, it didn't. Well, we've seen Kingpin done right in that you've seen a guy who, as soon as he walks into the room, everyone is terrified.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Michael Duncan walks into a room and you're going to be. This guy is freaking huge. I mean,
yeah, but it's not just the size. It was the menace. You make Vincent D'Onofrio convinces you that he could beat you to death on a heartbeat.
And Michael Duncan Smith really he's got super kind eyes.
Yeah.
And he's got a personality that you want to be around.
Yeah.
And for him to play the big bad, it didn't work.
It didn't. No. I also the way they did the Elektra arc.
Yeah, it was bad.
Was bad. Yeah. So
Superman 2 moves on.
Superman 2, yeah.
So the next one we've got 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was clearly made for little kids. It's men in costumes. It's bad dialogue, a weak story. I would watch it more than 1994's The Crow. The problem with The Crow is it came out in the grunge era. It's very much Depeche Mode. It's kind of depressing, and it's just it's not a fun movie to watch.
Well, the other problem with The Crow is that their lead actor was shot and killed on set during the making of The Crow. And
they had to finish it without him.
And they had to finish it without him. I think I think the way they actually pulled that off was okay, but I think you could tell that But
you never watched the movie without thinking of Brandon Lee dies here.
No, well, and I think the people who made it was very much in their minds when they finished it. I think it's all over the screen. It's a sad story anyway, and it's made even more sad by the tragic death of the lead actor on it. And
who don't know he was shot by a blank.
Yeah.
And I think Brandon Lee was going to be. He was in, I think, 1 or 2 movies before this. One was a cop movie, and there was a girl in it. I don't remember what it was, but it was actually a pretty enjoyable movie. I liked it. He was brilliant as the Crow, though. He was so good in this movie. And he had I'm the next big major star in Hollywood written all over him. Son of Bruce Lee, had fighting skills, had a fantastic smile, gauging personality. I wanted to see more of him on the screen in different stuff. And it didn't happen, obviously. It is tragic. And they, for anyone who's not seen The Crow, the idea is that this guy is shot dead protecting his girlfriend, and then he comes back as this supernatural character to inflict revenge on the criminals who did it. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting take on an interesting story, but I think
it was never going to be.
Well, this movie was all
mainstream.
style over substance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we talked before about how Men in Black could have been a standard action flick. For all that they did a really nice job on The Crow. It was a standard 90s action flick. You know, it was. That's what it was, and I think. Well, certainly, I enjoyed the first Turtles movie a lot more. It was a lot of fun.
It was a fun movie.
Was made for kids, but nevertheless, the Turtles are a fun concept.
Oh, well, they weren't meant to be.
No, I know.
I actually had the very first edition of the second issue. I missed the first one.
But I'm talking about when they transitioned from comics to TV because they were a Saturday morning cartoon.
They were.
Yeah. And then what they did is they made this movie that was it wasn't quite a Saturday morning cartoon turned live action.
It's about as close as you can get, though, without going over the top.
Yeah. And obviously...
Wasn't Sean Astin in it?
Yeah, I think so.
And
obviously, these things are designed to sell franchise spin-offs like toys and things like that. And it was very... But I think it was the first time nobody ever thought they could pull off a live-action Turtles movie, and they did a pretty good job.
What year was that? Did that come out? 1990. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see who's in this. I'm kind of curious now because a bunch of people I don't know. Corey Feldman was in it. I almost don't want it to win just because of that. I can't stand that guy. He's such a creepy weirdo. Yeah, I mean, there was... It was successful in spite of the fact that I don't know hardly any of these actors now.
Yeah, well, I think to be fair to it, I think Turtles succeeded because they did a decent job on a very popular franchise at the time.
Yeah.
I think it could have just as well, if it come out at a different time, bombed. And let's face it,
it just came out with a new one, and my 16-year-old went and saw it and said it was really good. So
yeah, no, I've got it to watch, and apparently it is really good. But they've gone back to doing animated, haven't they?
Yeah,
or it's stop motion animation rather than.
I'm not sure what it is. Regardless, it's really good.
It looks like stop motion. It's not really stop motion because everything's CG now, but it looks like stop motion.
Yeah.
Just the same way the Lego movie looked like stop motion Lego and wasn't.
I don't think The Crow holds up over time. I think that it was a product of its time, and even a couple years
here's
after,
the interesting thing. I think the Turtles is the same.
I don't think so. I think the Turtles have actually... If you showed a little kid, a 10-year-old, that movie now, they would enjoy it.
I agree with you.
If you showed a 19-year-old who's in Depeche Mode right now, The Crow, I don't think they would like it.
Fair enough.
I think the Turtles have a way better lasting power than The Crow will ever have.
I wonder if that's because of the franchise rather than the movie. But the
franchise continues because of the popularity of it. These characters are so popular that you can screw up a couple of times and it's still going to continue. And they can continuously reboot it, and it just works.
I suppose so. And like I said, I don't care enough about The Crow to argue against it.
No, me neither. I look, if they're both on right now, I'd rather watch the Turtles.
Absolutely, yes.
So there you go. So that is our battles this week. Avengers, Men in Black, Superman 2, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles move on. On the next episode, we'll have another round. We're going to have Watchmen going against Thor. First Spider-Man movie against Green Lantern, which is better than most people remember. I will argue that right now. If you go back and watch that Green Lantern movie, it's not bad. Yeah. I know it's popular, but Hellboy 2004, good movie. Against Mystery Men, dude. Listen, if anybody out there has never watched Mystery Men,
go and watch it before next time because it's an underrated classic.
And Wanted, which I really enjoyed, and I don't. Yeah. And this came out in 2008 when I was kind of done with Angeline Jolie, whatever her name is. Yeah. Against 300, which is another one of these Frank Miller, because that was a Frank Miller movie, just like Sin City. Yep. And it came out the next year. It's easy to make fun of now, but when it first came out, it was pretty fucking kick-ass. So we've got more good stuff coming up a couple weeks from now. We hope you guys will listen to our other show, Tech Fan, on that episode last week. Tragedy struck my vehicle, and we're going to talk about what the replacement is. Yes, I have replaced it. I'm not fixing it. We'll talk about that on the next Tech Fan, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And David, I will see you then.
See you then.